I mapped out a flowchart to help you determine for yourself if Doge is actually holding the government's feet to the flames like we desperately need, or only paving their own highway to hell. So I recently watched LegalEagle's video, WTF is Doge, wherein they presented various acts and codes Doge is subject to and allegedly violating, but I wanted to find out for myself, and then show the facts in a glanceable, digestible form. And then I found it goes a bit deeper.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
We begin with either Elon Musk is the head of Doge, or the department administrator is. Which leads to, if it's Elon, either 1, he's the department administrator himself, 2, simply a special government employee under the department or separate from it, or 3, he has no official authority over the Doge team. And we'll talk about what that line leads to later. If he's an SGE, he's 1, limited to a 130-day term, as required by 18 U.S.C. Section 202, 2, required to take ethics training, and 3, must receive a conflicts of interest waiver or assigned exception form. Both 2 and 3 are required by 18 U.S.C. Section 208. Him having conflicts of interest, I'm hoping is already a given, but feel free to pause here and research any of this that you need to first. Now, let's go back just a bit. Whether or not he's the department administrator, the position is either a principal officer or inferior officer, and that just depends on Congress and how much power they think the position has. If it's a principal officer position, though, then they need further checks and balances in the form of Senate confirmation, as well as those same ethics training and conflicts of interest requirements, assuming they have known conflicts of interest. But if the head of the Doge is an inferior officer and therefore reports to a principal officer, then we move to the department duties themselves, because as a temporary organization, they must have a clearly defined purpose and follow it, as required by 5 U.S.C. Section 3161. And if they're also an advisory committee, they're restricted to auditing and advising only, and subject to various transparency requirements, such as having publicly accessible, detailed records of all meetings and reports. That's laid out in 5 U.S.C. Section 1001 through 1014. Now at this point, if any of the legal requirements aren't met so far for SGEs, administrators, temp orgs, or advisory committees, any changes Doge makes to the government, they had no authority to make, and therefore also violate the strict separation of powers written by the Founding Fathers, called the Appointments Clause. Finally, we have the last few blocks on Doge's actions, and eyes on home base. To reach the good ending where I say, good, yes, please expose the waste, fraud, and abuse of our tax dollars.
Please, sir, I want some more.
Doge, they have to have only audited and advised. But if, for example, they've accessed things like citizen social security numbers, addresses, state ID numbers, and then worse, saved those to personal devices, they violate both the Privacy Act and FISMA. Next, if they've altered spending without congressional approval, say by canceling federal contracts and claim it saves money when actually the funds were already appropriated, that would violate the Appropriations Clause, which gives Congress alone, the People's Branch, the power of the purse. And then this block is where it gets deeper. Are Doge's actions under Musk's orders? If not, then I guess it's just that the department should have better vetted or trained the Doge team members. They're just some rogue actors. Who picked them in the first place, though? But if the actions are done under Musk's orders, and he's not the department administrator, then the crimes cascade: administrative procedures violation, impersonating an officer violation, then it's a false statements violation, the take care clause has been violated, then it's aiding and abetting, and finally, conspiracy to defraud the United States, one after the other. Do you think the executive branch will even prosecute? And to those that say, so what? Screw the law, screw the Constitution, it's a swamp anyways, when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty. Did you or Doge even consider all the legal ways there are to expose waste, fraud, and abuse in our democracy? Can you even name any off the top of your head? For instance, reporting it to the inspectors general. Oh, wait. Before you say, they're in on the fraud though, all those methods are part of the fraud. I hear you, but if Doge tests them first, they can get the empirical evidence that it's all included in the widespread fraud, and then show the people so that it's more than just confident speculation. But if they take action before even trying to gather that evidence, then they just look like the most blatant fraud of it all. I remember when the GOP proclaimed they were the party of law and order. They used to caution against flipping the cart, against unrestrained science and politics. The progressives were the reckless ones. But instead of just arguing certain agencies or codes are unconstitutional anymore, now they have people rallying against the Constitution as a whole. I'm not sure what this is, but it's not the grand old party anymore. So why would a lowly flowchart be Doge's worst nightmare? Because corruption thrives on ignorance, and following honest questions only risks finding the truth. So if it sparks retaliation, you've found the corruption. Alright, now I can't give you the facts. I can only hope to make finding the facts yourself easier. Otherwise, I'm just adding another layer of hearsay to the mess. Especially since I'm not a lawyer, so you should really look up the laws for yourself and fact-check me. Until then, save your disagreements. But if you do find I misread or misinterpreted anything, tell me in the comments or email me. I made Veruminate with the mission of building a team dedicated to ending the hassle of making well-informed decisions. This goes way beyond flowcharts. So if you agree there's gotta be an easier way to weed through all the BS, then help us out any way you can. The most important need right now is networking. If you know of any like-minded efforts and experts, send them my way. Click all the buttons below to help more people find this. Consider donating and buy me a coffee. And see the link stack for useful recommendations. Thanks for the view and everything else you can do. We'll see you around. Is Doge cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, or commanding it? Is Doge defending the Constitution, or violating it at every turn? Are these public servants actually serving the law to the government for once, or just serving us up on a platter? Are they cutting red tape, or just wrapping it around our necks?